I think that at the end of the day, we need all to speak the same language. Otherwise, Yishai, I come from Rome. I am originally from Rome. So sometimes I say, okay, so I go with my Latin books and I go to claim the rest of the Mediterranean. So I have to give up some of the argument if I want to be with the rest of the humanity, if I recognize that I am the same as the rest of the humanity. So I think that there are many things interesting that you say, but the rule of the game must be the same for everybody. And I would like to allow me to correct something when you mentioned the Balfour Declaration as legitimation. I want to remind that the Balfour Declaration of 1917 was issued by the British while they had no rule whatsoever, no right whatsoever on that piece of land that was under the control of the Ottoman Empire. So I would not take it a Balfour Declaration like international law.
Maria, the Balfour Declaration was a recognition that England was about to break this very authoritarian empire into pieces and give people. Remember, the breakdown of the Ottoman Empire meant the liberation of peoples. It meant people having their own the birth of nations, the recognition of their indigenous and ancestral rights. That's what Israel is. Israel is part of the break of the Ottoman Empire and then the birth of many countries through that. Right? Remember that the San Remo Accords gave birth to Iraq, which was called Mesopotamia, to Syria, to Israel, and later on to also Jordan. People got their lands back. The Balfour Declaration was a declaration that later on was also talked about in the League of Nations, which was these points of the Wilsonian idea that birth of nations will people will have rights to their ancestral homeland. So. Yeah. Let's not poo-poo the Balfour Declaration and say, well, they didn't have a right to it. The point is that they were breaking a horrific empire that was subjectifying people all over the world. Okay, but then
Yishai,
wait a minute. And then after the Balfour Declaration, it was accepted by the principal powers that broke those empires, including the Austro-Hungarian Empire and the Ottoman Empire. And then later on, the League of Nations, I think it was 56 or 54 countries got together and voted to recognize the mandate for a Jewish Palestine, to create a Palestine. So I don't know why you're harping on Balfour Declaration. It's just one of a whole series of things that led to recognition. That's number one. Number two, with regarding to what you said about Romans. Look, first thing is, you still have an Italy. Okay, your Italy is still at the end a construct of that empire that existed 2,000 years ago, and so is Romania, right? Okay, you guys have your thing. Our Jewish state, we were kicked out by, actually, with all due respect, by Rome. We were kicked out from our land, and we have been dispersed around the world, and now we're getting our rights to come back to our land. We're asserting our rights. By the way, Maria, how many nations are there in the world? Social scientists believe that there's about 3,000 nations around the world.
Yeah.
And yet there's only about 194 countries. We happen to be one of those nations that were able to reassert our right in our land. We fought for it. We won it. The world recognized, not granted, recognized our ancestral connection to that land. We have every right to our ancestral homeland. We fought it. The Ottomans were conquerors. Before them, the Mamluks were conquerors. Before them, the Crusaders were conquerors. Before them, the Byzantines were conquerors. Before that, the Romans were conquerors. Nobody else had a capital in Jerusalem. We had two commonwealths here. It's our land. It always has been our land. It's not the Crusaders, and it's not the Byzantines, and it's certainly not the absolutely created mythology of a Palestine, which never existed, has zero history in this land. The majority of the Arabs that are here in this land came because of Zionism, because Israel brought jobs and economic opportunity. The majority of Palestinians are economic migrants to this area. And certainly the conquest of Islam into Africa, into the Middle East, and into the Levant should not not be seen as that they have asserted rights. They are a conquering empire, and now they've been pushed back a little bit. What's wrong with that? We're a people, we're back. Now, I want to say this, Maria, one last point to you, please. One last point, which is this. If you accept my argumentation or you don't accept my argumentation, that's okay. I've given you biblical argumentation. I've given you international law argumentation. I've given you argumentation about rights that we have received because we purchased land, because we won it in wars. We have many, many, many reasons for having this right. If you can't see it, and I wish, by the way, as a Roman person, a person from Rome, that you'd be like, you know what, that's historical justice. We did an injustice to these people, and now justice is that they're back. If you can accept that, great. But if you can't accept it, what can I do? I'm going to have to keep holding on to my land, and I'm certainly not going to buy total liberal progressive bullshit that this is somebody else's land and I should give away my land to the jihad. That is crap. And that is stuff that is fraudulent, a created mythology.
I'm sorry, I need to get in here because you are not being legit. If you speak about international law, you have to also recognize international law in its broadest terms. There's ICJ rulings.
I don't have to.
Israel is on trial for genocide.
I don't have to. I will recognize what I think is just. What is unjust, I don't have to recognize.
That is currently being conducted by Israel. You cannot say international law is not a pick and choose.
It is. It absolutely is. I happen to have a degree in international law, and it exactly is that. And I completely disagree with you. If something is
you can disagree with me, but it's international law that is very clear.
It's not very clear. It's anything but clear, and there's many debate on it.
Really?
Don't tell, the minute you say it's very clear, the minute that you say it's very clear, that means that you don't really know what the status is. It's not very clear.
Tell me, what
and right now, the United States is pushing away from the international criminal, the ICC and the ICJ, because they're not legitimate organizations. They're anti-Semitic organizations, and therefore I'm not going to legitimize them, and I'm completely not going to accept your idea that I have to take everything whole cloth. That's not the way the world works. Okay, I don't have to take everything whole cloth. There are elements in what the so-called international community is doing which are illegitimate, and I will not accept them. Okay, I will not accept them. I don't have to accept everything that the ICJ or ICC says. I will not, because I think that they are anti-Semitic bodies, and I think that they're not legitimate. And I have to defend myself, not to defend international law. I said that there are some elements of international law.
But then later say, well, actually, I do not have to recognize it.
I'll say it right now, and I've said it. I'm saying it as clearly as possible. When things are right, I'll recognize them, and when they're wrong, I'm going to call that out. And if you want me to be some kind of slave to some kind of automaton to anti-Semitic and biased and agents of Iran and all that, then I'm not going to do that. And so therefore, it is being fair, and I'm being honest. Certain things from all the way from the 20s were legitimate. The crap that they're saying today is not. If I was Israel, I would leave the United Nations. I would, by the way, notice Taiwan is not in the United Nations. It's fine. Notice that the United States is not part of the ICC, ICJ. It's fine. So I would leave that organization in a heartbeat and say to it, you could just go fly a kite. We don't respect you. You're not a serious, legitimate. You're not a legitimate organization. You're illegitimate, and I will not accept it. I have to survive. How do you pronounce your name? Fraser? I'm sorry. We have to survive and not succumb to the bullying tactics.
But you cannot go and survive by ethnically cleansing other people.
Yeah, ethnically cleansing. We're real ethnic cleansers. We're real ethnic cleansers around here. By the way, why don't you get to concerning what's happening right now in Yemen? 500,000 people dying from starvation, and all these other places. What's happening in Syria. Do me a favor. There's no ethnic cleansing here.
You cannot come and tell me that it's worse somewhere else when we're talking about your project right now. You're the one that's promoting a greater Israel
what I cannot come and tell you. I will tell you what I think and how I live my life around here. I have to survive, and we're not doing ethnic cleansing. Although we should do voluntary immigration.
Immigration. Would you leave your land?
Please, we're here to listen to Yishai.
I'm sorry. This nice lady who's speaking with me, and I appreciate your questions. She is not listening to Arabs. She's speaking for the Arabs, and yet I can play you right now from this computer tens of videos of Arabs saying, just let me out of Gaza and let me go to a different country. I want out. We know that there are tons of Arabs who want out. They don't want to be part of this conflict. They recognize either through the Quran or other ways that Israel is the rightful owner of this land, and they want out. But you would like to keep them there because you would like to be pawns of the jihad. We say, no, let them have their liberty and freedom to go somewhere else.